Okay, now we're going to talk about our circle, and what you see here is referred to as the standard form for your circle. And if you'll notice, first of all, identifying the center of your circle, that will be the point HK. So H will come from this set of parentheses where your X is. So that's easy to remember. This is your X coordinate, so it'll come from the parentheses here where your X is. K is what they refer to as the Y coordinate of the center, so that would come from here. Now what you got to be careful about when you're identifying your center, because what you have here and here are minus signs, the easiest way to remember is actually when you pull those numbers out and use those to form your ordered pair for your center, you actually have got to change the sign. And just a brief explanation as to why. Like if I have x plus 5, let's just look at one set of parentheses for instance to make my point here. I have to write this with a minus sign. So to write this as a minus sign, then I would have to change this to negative 5 because subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding. So this is your h, which is negative 5. So like I said, the easiest thing to remember to do is just when you pull it from the parentheses, then to use it in this ordered pair, just change the sign of it. Okay, your standard form equation is always going to be equal to r squared, but your radius is simply just r. So since you're going to be given r squared in the equation, to find r, then you would just take square root. Alright, so taking this and looking at some examples. You're first of all here asked to write the standard form of the equation of the circle with the given center and the given radius. Okay, so since you're given the center, that means this is h and this is k. Of course, your radius, your r, is equal to 4. Okay, so just follow the format that I had written down for your standard form. So it starts off with x minus h. So that would have to be minus a negative 3. Therefore, we'll change that to plus. And don't forget, it is the quantity squared. Don't forget to put your exponent. Okay, plus, and then you'll have y minus k. So that would be y minus 2. And then that quantity squared equals r squared. So if r is 4, then 4 squared would give us 16. So there's your standard form for this particular circle. Okay, next one. This time our center is located at negative 5, 0, and our radius is square root 5. So again, this is h, and this is k. Okay, so I have x minus a negative 5. So again, this is going to change to addition, plus y minus k. That quantity squared is equal to r squared. So if r is square root of 5, then you have to square this. So you square the square root of 5, you just simply get 5. Now, your answer would actually just be written, we'll change this right here because y minus 0 is just simply y. So you would just see that particular term just written as y squared. So just remember, if you don't have a number that you physically see that's added or subtracted on the y or on the x, either one, it is an understood 0. Okay. Now kind of just reversing what we were doing. This time we're going to start out with the equation, and we're going to have to find the center and the radius, but we're also going to graph it. And then after we get it graphed, we'll use our graph to identify domain and range. Okay, so starting out with the center. Okay, your x coordinate that's referred to as h will come from here. But remember what I showed you about the fact that the sign actually changes. So your value here you would actually identify as negative 3, but when you use it in your ordered pair, you need to make it positive 3. Okay, k, which is your y coordinate, will come from here. The value that you have here is a positive 4. Change the sign. So your ordered pair here is the point 3, negative 4. Now Now radius. So 9 actually represents r squared. So if I just want r, then that means that I just need to take the square root. So square root of 9 is going to give me 3. Okay, to graph this, first thing that you're going to do will be to put your center, plot that point. So 3, negative 4. Okay, so here's my 3, negative 4. Now, if you remember, of course, radius is the distance from the center to your circle. So since I have a radius of 3, then coming out from this point in any direction would need to be a distance of 3. Now, it's not easy to measure a distance of 3, you know, kind of going off at an angle here, but you can easily measure your distance of 3 if you measure up and then down and left and right. Okay, so let me put some more tick marks on here for us to go by. Alright, so let's start with up. So going from my center, if I go up 3, and then down 3, and then we'll go left 3, and finally to the right 3. So then you can use these 4 outer points then to be able to make your circle. And it's always hard to make a circle, just do the best that you can with it. Now one thing that'll really mess up the looks of your circle is if you're not consistent with putting the same distance between all of your tick marks. So make sure you are consistent not only with the distance on that same axis, but even the distance that you're putting between these. Okay? Or like I said, that'll really mess up the looks of your circle. So just do the best you can with that. Now, we are asked also about domain and range, which we have done that before. Your domain, remember, is your x values. So the easiest thing that how I had described it before is look at your graph from its left side to its right side. Now, when you start looking at it from the left side, though, no part of this graph goes to the left forever. Like if you start looking at your x values, the first x value that is used by this graph is right here, which would be at x equals 0. Of course, all of these points across through here, these x values are on your graph, but it does stop when you get here. So I do believe that's 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. So your domain goes from 0 to 6, which you do include those values because those points are included. Okay, range. Now range is y values. So I had described to you before by looking at it from bottom to top. It doesn't go down forever. It doesn't go up forever. You're simply locked between this value, which I believe is -7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, -7, and then up to +1. So that would be your domain and range. Alright, let's look at one more like this. Alright, so we'll start off again by identifying our center. Okay, so for your x coordinate, you go here where your x value is. You have a +2, change the sign, you have -2. Now, I mentioned this earlier. I said if you don't have, like if you don't physically see the number that's added or subtracted on your y or even on your x, it would have to be an understood 0. So that's the situation that you have here with your y coordinate. Okay, radius, again the 4 represents r squared, therefore r would just be 2. Okay, now graphing this one. Okay, start by marking your center. And then since my radius is 2, that means I'll go up 2 units, down 2 units, and then also left and right 2 units. Remember, be consistent with the distance that you're putting between your tick marks. Okay, so there's our circle. And now again, domain and range. Okay, so domain is x. So this time if we look at our graph from left to right, it actually starts here at the -4, at x equal -4, and stops at x equals 0. And then range, we look at it from bottom to top. So from here to here, so that actually takes us from -2 to +2.